All right, guys, welcome back to Marlins 9. As always, I'm your host, Jeremiah Geiger. And first off, quick scheduling update with the podcast. It is going to be a weekly show. A weekly show. Podcast episodes will be out every Thursday. But instead of twice a week, we're going to scale it back a little bit, go once a week. We're still going to have guests on the podcast, still going to delve into really good topics and still be as thorough, but just going to be a once a week podcast. So a little bit of a change there, but I encourage you guys, if you're a fan of the show, subscribe, share, let other Marlins fans know about this, as in 2024 it's been a tough season, but I think to develop this podcast is still a really good goal of mine. I still love the Marlins, love talking about the team. So there's the quick scheduling update. Just wanted to put that out there for you guys. And now we're going to get into the podcast. First topic of the day. This is suggested by D. Hicks, big fan of the show. To tank or not to tank when it comes to the Miami Marlins. And first off, thank you for the suggestion. I always appreciate suggestions from anybody that listens to the show. If you listen to the show or watch it on YouTube, drop a comment. Let me know how I'm doing. Let me know what you would like to see covered in the show for the next episode. But the Marlins tanking. This is a interesting topic because a lot of fans have not accepted the fact that the Marlins will be going into a multi-year, full-scale rebuild. It's going to happen. It already is happening. When the Marlins refused to sign or even, extend an offer to Jorge Soler, when they refused to upgrade the catching position, Christian Bethancourt is not an upgrade. When the shortstop acquisition they made was Tim Anderson on a 1-year prove-it $5 million deal, the warning signs were there. And yet a lot of us, including myself, didn't realize exactly what Bendix had in store, what this ownership was planning to do by bringing in Peter Bendix. This team is not good. The farm system is not good. I understand that a lot of you fans want the Tampa Bay way. You guys want Tampa Bay's philosophy to be integrated into the way the Marlins run their organization. However, the way that Peter Bendix started this off by trading Luis Arias tells me that WAR is the only stat they pay attention to, and you're not willing to extend anybody, no matter how much they want to be in the city, no matter how much they want to stay a Marlin and become a Marlin for life. Luis Arias was the prime example of that. There's a raging debate among Marlins fans about the worth of Luis Arias as a player. A lot of you have the mindset his WAR is not high. He doesn't grade well in defensive metrics. He has no speed. All he does is hit singles. He was expendable. Worth the trade. It was a good trade. And then the other part of the fans, the other half, like myself, sees the value in Luis Arias for his hit tool. It is a generational hit tool. The best pure contact hitter I think the Major League Baseball has seen since Tony Gwynn. I really believe that. The back-to-back hitting champion with a chance to go 3 for 3. 3 batting titles in the last 3 years. And you trade him away for a prospect package headlined, no pun intended, headlined by a guy in Dylan Head who struggles with contact in single A ball and is 19 years old. This is a rebuild. For Head to make an impact, the earliest The absolute earliest would be 2027, 2028. More likely 2028. So 2027 at the minimum is when you would see the results start to show from this trade, the complete results. I understand Nathan Martorella and Jacob Marcy will most likely contribute to the Marlins in 2025, possibly the end of 2024, but they'll be up in the big leagues sooner. But the headline of the trade was based on a guy with a lot of tools, especially his speed, 80 grade speed, but is still very, very low in the minors. You don't make that trade with Marcy as the main piece. You don't make that trade as Martorella as the main piece. You are only going to make that trade if Head was the main piece. Obviously excluding their real top prospects, the Padres. So Bendick said this was the best deal they felt they could get for Arias. He couldn't pass this deal up. So Head better be worth it. He better be worth it. Or you just traded a back-to-back batting champion for a guy that doesn't pan out. And only time is going to tell on that. But based on the time frame, it's not a major league ready prospect. If Arias was flipped to a team who was willing to give up a major league ready prospect with more years of control, okay, I can get behind that. I could see it. I could understand it. If you weren't going to extend him, I wanted the Marlins to extend him. I thought they could build around him. They went a different direction. The second reason why the Marlins are entering a full-scale rebuild, you have to look at the pitching staff. Sandy Alcantara and his money, it was a team-friendly deal, yes. They got him relatively cheap, but it was backloaded. The deal is going to start kicking in. The money is going to start kicking in. And now Ken Rosenthal says it's a done deal that Jesus Luzardo will be traded by the deadline. A done deal. No speculation. And he's not a rental. Okay. This isn't Ken Rosenthal saying Josh Bell will be looking to be gone, or Tanner Scott will be traded. No, this is Jesus Luzardo, who's in the midst of a terrific stretch in his young career, by the way. After a really rough start, he's really picked it up a notch. This is Jesus Luzardo, besides this season, with 2 additional years of control. He doesn't become a free agent until after the 2026 season. So that should tell you all you need to know right there. If the Marlins are willing to trade him, and not just willing, they're looking to trade him. They want to get as much as they can for him, obviously. But if he'll be gone by the deadline when he has 2.5 years of control left, you're not looking to trade for a major league ready prospect with Luis Arias, who had an additional year of control and wanted to be extended. You're certainly not going to hold out like for a major league hitter when Jesus Luzardo has 2 years of control. You're not extending him. You're not competing until 2027. I would bet Sandy Alcantara will be gone too. Yori Perez will stay. I think they found something in Ryan Weathers. But Jesus Luzardo is right up there, guys. We act like he's the veteran of the group, and he is, based on everyone around him is so young. You know, Braxton Garrett, Ryan Weathers, these guys don't have a ton of experience. But it's not like Jesus Luzardo does too. When Sandy comes back, obviously he'll be the ace of the staff, and he'll be the veteran guy on the roster. But besides him, Jesus Luzardo is the guy. And now they're looking to get rid of him. It's a done deal. Through 2026, you have guaranteed Jesus Luzardo on your roster, and it won't be in Miami. It won't be. Sandy Alcantara now, that's the other question you have to think about. We talk about the Tampa Bay way. They don't like spending money. Well, like I said, the money is going to start kicking in. It's going to be owed $17 million next year, $17 million the year after, and then follows it up with $21 million. There's no way the Marlins will be willing to spend that. Not if they're not willing to keep Jesus Luzardo for the next 2 seasons for cheap, who's under team control and just getting into arbitration. But they're going to want to hold on and build around a veteran pitcher coming off Tommy John surgery who's owed $17 million. Come on, be realistic. I'm the most optimistic fan there is. I predicted the Marlins to win 80-plus games again and sneak into the playoffs. I thought they could. I thought they should go for it. But they're not. And I see the writing on the wall. And right now, based on Arias being gone, based on no talent in the farm system that is going to help at the shortstop position or the catching position, apart from Xavier Edwards, who I'll talk about a little later. But Tim Anderson is not it. He did not work out. You hoped he did, but he did not work out at shortstop. Christian Bethancourt, disaster at catcher. So when you traded Arias, that was it. You're starting to tear down. Jazz too. My prediction is Jazz will be traded in the offseason. I think you're going to see Jazz finish out hopefully what is his best season, and he continues to stay healthy. And you're going to see a big prospect package in return. You might as well, if you're not going to extend him, why let the years of control burn? Why let them burn? Well, you better hit on that trade. You better hit on the Luzardo trade. Because if you don't, you're really in trouble. You are really in trouble. You're going to be screwed for years. You'll be screwed for years. You need these prospects to pan out. Arias, yes, you really hope, you get something worthwhile in return for a 2-time batting champion. That'd be nice. But when it comes to Jesus Luzardo, who is your biggest trade piece this year, and Jazz Chisholm, who is also a really big trade piece and is having himself a really good year, you got to hit on these prospects. Look at 2018, 2017. You traded Real Muto, one of the best catchers in the game. You traded Yelich. He won an MVP the season after. You got nothing in return from Yelich. You got pretty much nothing in return for Real Muto. You have Sixto, who is attempting a career resurgence and is a great story, but certainly nowhere near the value that Jacob Realmuto or JT Realmuto provided. And that is ultimately the trades you saw, let's see, 7 years ago, the trades you saw that failed are ultimately what did in the Marlins. It's what did them in. So you better hit on these trades, especially if you're adopting the Tampa Bay Rays philosophy of not extending players. I'm totally against it. For what it's worth. I'm totally against the all-in approach on analytics. But what can you do? You're a fan. You're not running the team. So the good news is that the Marlins have a plethora of starting pitching. Of course, we know starting pitching, is expendable and has to be expendable because of the amount of injuries they have. Tommy John surgery, Yori, Max Meyer, Sandy. The names go on of guys that have gotten injured. And we've seen guys emerge. Ryan Weathers, Braxton Garrett. There is starting pitching, young starting pitching. But you need more. You need bats. You can never have enough pitching. So I'm not saying we're good on pitching. The Marlins don't ever need to trade for a pitching prospect again. You got a couple studs coming up through the system. Noble Meyer, Thomas White. Something tells me they're going to be really good. Just watch them. They're going to be really, really good. But again, 3-4 years down the road, not going to see them pitch in Lone Depot Park for 3 years at least. Both of them recently got promoted to high A ball in Beloit, so keep following their development. It's crucial. It's crucial. So that's exciting. The young pitching, the way the Marlins develop pitching, that is a positive. The way to develop hitting, time will tell. New scouting regime in place, new front office on how you evaluate hitters coming out of the draft. Draft is going to be just as valuable as trading for prospects in terms of the rebuild. You got to hit on this year's draft. I've said it before. I'll say it again. Prospects now that can, contribute in a meaningful way and can play themselves into being a building block for the next Marlins playoff team are thin. There's not a lot, but there's a couple I want to touch on today. And I did a whole prospect breakdown with Alex Carver from Marlins Minors, Fish on the Farm. A lot of people watched it. If you haven't watched it, go check it out or listen to it. But I mentioned his name earlier. Xavier Edwards needs to be called up as soon as possible. Missed the first half of the season so far he got an infection in his foot, but now he's back in AAA Jacksonville and he's tearing it up. Multi-hit game after multi-hit game after multi-hit game. I believe he's up to 4 multi-hit games so far. I could be wrong on that, but just had another one yesterday. And you're getting absolutely nothing from Tim Anderson. He should be called up within the next month. And that's maximum. That is at absolute maximum the next month. Need some water here soon. But Xavier Edwards, I want to see what he can do. Give him the rest of the at-bats. Give him an extended look. So at the end of 2024, you can say, okay, Xavier Edwards is someone we're going to build around, or Xavier Edwards is somebody that doesn't have it. Because in the cup of coffee he had last season in the big leagues, he hit 295. It's pretty good. Give him the at-bats. Once he's ready, call him up. Let him start every day. And I'm being serious. Let him start every day. It's a lost season. Tim Anderson should be DFA'd. Edwards should start at shortstop. It's pretty simple. Victor Mesa Jr. continues to rake in AAA. Call him up. Again, give him enough at-bats the rest of the summer and into September to where you can see, okay, we have something here. Maybe you do. I love for that to happen. But you don't know until you give them extended looks. Prospects are prospects until they're given a chance in the majors to prove themselves. We saw it with Lewis Brinson. We saw it with Isan Diaz. High-level prospects that never panned out. Could never figure out major league pitching. It's what you call A ball players. Guys who are really good for AAA, but are terrible in the majors. They're in the middle ground. They're in purgatory. You don't know what you have. Give Edwards and Mesa Jr. enough at-bats the rest of the year. They're ready. Once they're ready to go, I know Edwards dealing with the foot and getting accustomed to live ABs, but he's tearing it up in AAA. Put him on the major league roster in the lineup as soon as you can. Same with Victor Mesa Jr., Who should Mesa Jr. replace? I mean, just go down the list. Who do you think is going to be somebody that you're going to build around? And if the answer is no, if you don't see that player being on the next major league team for the Marlins that is in the postseason, then they should not be blocking Victor Mesa Jr. No disrespect to Nick Gordon, but you could swap them out. Jesus Sanchez in center field. I know Mesa Jr. You got Jazz Chisholm there, so not going to switch there. But Jesus Sanchez is at the end of his rope. You know, never really has developed any more than a platoon guy. Give Mesa Jr. the at bats. And now we're not even going to talk about a Marlins incident. We're going to talk about the Jorge Lopez situation. Just happened yesterday. Mets are playing. Jorge Lopez is pitching. It looked like a check swing. Argues with the umpire. Third base umpire ejects him from the game. And the broadcast kind of cuts off. And it shows Jorge Lopez throwing his glove into the stands. Complete outburst after the game. The reporters ask him, do you regret that? And now Lopez is from Puerto Rico. English is not his first language. He's not utilizing a translator here. And it was misconstrued what he said, whether it was, I'm the worst teammate on the worst team, or I'm on the worst team in the MLB. And people are saying, Lopez said he was on the worst team in the MLB. And he had to clarify. He said he was the worst. He did not say he was on the worst team. He was saying he was on the worst teammate on the worst team. And it's sad because you have a player who obviously is under a lot of stress in that situation. You got a lot of emotions behind you. And it comes out later that, his son is awaiting like surgery or a medical procedure done. So you get ejected, you lose your cool for a moment, and now you have a reporter grilling you in another language, and you speak and you get misconstrued, you get misinterpreted. It sucks. It sucks. And he got DFA'd. He's not going to be on the New York Mets any longer. Just like that. So really bizarre set of circumstances there. Honestly, baseball is an emotional game. You have to keep your composure. It's easier said than done, but you have to keep your composure. Yeah, you can't throw the glove in there in the stands, but when you say something and it gets misinterpreted, that when it doesn't have to be, and people aren't rectifying what they said is, all over social media, Jorge Lopez doubles down and says he's on the worst team. No, he said he's the worst teammate on the worst team. He's frustrated, guys. He's frustrated. And former Marlin last year, at this point, you just hope for him mentally. He feels a little bit more at peace, especially with the news of his son. It's just a cutthroat world out there. Everybody is quick to jump on the next piece of news and, for a laugh or a reaction, when there's real people, real emotions behind everybody out there on social media. So it's a dangerous game. I encourage you all to learn all of the details before you make an assumption about somebody, before you make an assumption about something. So that is the last thing kind of on the Jorge Lopez situation. And really, that's all. That's all on the docket today for Marlins 9. There is one more thing I just remembered I will talk about. Really quickly, I want to bring up the Jose Urena Sixto Sanchez game. That is tomorrow. Marlins are playing 3 against the Texas Rangers. And Jose Urena, the de facto ace for the Marlins in many years where they were struggling on the field. He was the number one guy, bounced around after his time in Miami, lands with the Rangers against the much maligned Sixto Sanchez. Kind of a funny pitching matchup, if you ask me. Two guys that bring a lot of mystery to the game. Jose Urena, of course, will be remembered for beating Ronald Acuna very clearly, intentionally, and starting the rage of Brian Snitker and kind of the ill will for Ronald Acuna towards Miami. That is mainly what Urania is remembered for. But a pitcher I liked watching, and had kind of a very funky delivery with his separation at his hands, something I'll remember. And then Sixto Sanchez continues to start for the Marlins, and I hope he does well. At this point, it's really not much else you can say against it for Sixto Sanchez. You just got to see what's happening. They're going to continue the Sixto starting experiment. Urania will be on the mound for the Rangers, opening day starter for the Marlins for a couple seasons. So when you kind of look back at the time, I guess for long-term Marlins fans, this is an interesting matchup just because of the fact you had the star prospect you got in 2018, Sixto Sanchez. Need some water again, but we're wrapping this up. You have the star prospect you got in 2018 from the Phillies and Sixto. And during 2018, your number one guy was Jose Urena. And now they match up in a pitching matchup, and their careers completely got sidetracked. Urena ended up becoming a reliever after he left Miami. Sixto got injured, hasn't pitched in 3 years. So certainly not a high-profile matchup, but kind of a funny one among Marlins fans. I encourage everybody to watch it. So that's going to do it for Marlins 9 today. I thank everybody for listening. Share the pod, subscribe if you're on YouTube, and let's go fish.